So today we are going to discuss about the butterfly gardening basics. So there are a lot more things in butterfly gardening beyond this presentation. So this is like those who are interested in this and especially amateurs but want to do something, develop a small butterfly garden or like that. So this presentation is developed for those friends or young naturalists or amateurs. So why do we create butterfly gardens? The butterfly gardens, there are many purposes of creating butterfly gardens, and especially uh, organizations and government organizations create butterfly gardens to do environmental education, and private butterfly gardens might be for seeing more butterflies because we love butterflies. They are colorful, and it gives us a chance to go out to the nature and watch something fluttering around the flowers. Both are the beautiful things. Then butterfly gardens can also be developed for butterfly tourism, which helps in employment generation. Now this has become an important aspect. It encourages the establishment of butterfly populations. That helps in thus it helps in conservation research and captive breeding of butterfly populations. If we want to do it, then of course it has the recreational value. You will always like to go out to a butterfly garden on a weekend and get freshened up. Some companies are also trying to create butterfly gardens. They have done actually as a part of their environmental stewardship program. Just look at the environmental education value of butterfly gardens. Even a small butterfly garden we have at the Conservation Education Center of BNHS in Mumbai, Goregaon. We conduct so many activities there, like the Butterfly Festival, then butterfly walks, like breakfast with butterflies. For so many years, this event is going on. Last year, we started a butterfly festival, and around 500 people participated. Look at the way, the joy at the faces of the kids, and they get involved. Even watching a caterpillar here, or a pupa, or a butterfly, or making a butterfly painting, a butterfly tattoo. It gives us so much joy. That's why butterflies can become icons of environmental education, and they're so easy to see. And these are very successful activities and helps us in creating an awareness about a neglected aspect of biodiversity. The insects, the most beautiful insects, I will say, that is the butterflies. So we get lots and lots of participants just for events which are related to butterflies, which helps us in creating environmental education. So when we are talking about creating butterfly gardens, we need to understand the laws. In India, we have Wildlife Protection Act 1972, and it may not be possible in India to create closed butterfly gardens like there are in Singapore. This is I am talking about for an individual. Because the closed butterfly garden amounts to a zoo and needs permission from Zoo Authority of India because butterflies are wild animals. And there might be many other clauses in the Wildlife Protection Act which we need to understand before we venture into creating a closed butterfly garden. But then we have another choice. What is that choice? The choice is to create an open butterfly garden, because uh, for that you don't need any permission, or you don't need to uh, really go to any government agencies, and you don't need to even read laws because you are not catching any butterflies, and the butterflies are free ranging butterflies which come to your butterfly garden because it's an open butterfly garden. So that's the choice for individuals who want to develop terrace butterfly garden, or in your farmhouse, or for NGOs. So, there is a lot of scope for creating butterfly gardens in India, like existing zoos in India. They've got so much land, so they can create model butterfly gardens as they set up, and permissions and everything they have. And these places common and but beautiful butterflies can be reared and released, like the common rose, crimson rose, the long butterfly, those butterflies. And what about closed butterfly gardens? Now we have many closed butterfly gardens in India also. Let us have a look of what are closed butterfly gardens. This can be of can have a entire glass house, or a netted area, like the one in Singapore, which and one in Singapore airport with the glass house. So what do they do here? There is one in Abu Dhabi. What they do is they control all the weather parameters so that they suit the butterflies. They can fly. So the temperature, humidity, etc. This can be developed in any country. Closed butterfly gardens. The pupae are imported from other countries and kept in emergence cages or boxes and enclosed. And the butterflies which come out or eclose out of the pupae are released every day in the garden. So this is a closed butterfly garden at Changi Airport in Singapore, and you can see it's a glass house, just like a glass house. The entire ecosystem is controlled. The weather parameters are controlled, and people are enjoying butterflies there. So at the airport, if you have a lot of time you're waiting for a flight, you can just go here and enjoy. So what they keep is, besides having the natural plantation, like you can see the flowering plants here, the ixora having a lot of flowers. They also keep this overripe fruits like pineapple, and even flowers cut like this they keep for butterflies to nectar. You can see a butterfly here. Keep the flowers. You see the butterflies here taking nectar, and the butterfly here. So the butterflies are there in this because they are released. So as there are no predators, they survive as long as they can. And the Singapore Butterfly Garden, it carries lots of educational information. There are so many posters like this which gives you lot of information about butterflies. Otherwise, these the people like these corporate people who are traveling in flights, a particular class, they may not have a chance to read about butterflies. So you can see the posters. Here are some posters. Butterflies versus moths, sport sheep, waiting in the egg laying. Then there is about the wonders of what is the world's largest butterfly, world's smallest butterfly, other things. This is the emergence case. That means the pupae which are imported from some other countries like Costa Rica, wherever it's allowed by law. They just keep the pupae like here. These are stuck using some gum like Fevikwik, and they are arranged for emergence. So as soon as they emerge, they can open this and release the butterfly in the butterfly garden. So they are released there as soon as they emerge. Now we have some closed butterfly gardens in India also. Like there is one in US Forest Minister of Maharashtra, and butterfly garden in Tadoba, Maharashtra, Chandrapur district. They just I think 2 years back it was inaugurated. Then you can see our respected Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji inaugurating the butterfly park at Kevadia in Gujarat. He released lots of butterflies on the occasion, and this is also a beautiful butterfly garden. That's what I understand. Then we have one in Bannerghatta, Bangalore. This is a closed butterfly garden. You can see the beautiful architecture here, and a lot of flowering plants, people enjoying, and here, beautiful entrance. So these are attracting lots of people now. And then we have one in Shimla, one in Chandigarh, and one in Jaipur. The one in Jaipur, I did not see any butterflies inside, but it's a enclosed butterfly garden, and it's huge. It's really beautiful, but there are no butterflies inside. Then we have open butterfly gardens at many places in India, like the first one which I visited was at Thane, the Olekawadi Butterfly Garden, which I like very much. Then we have one at this Conservation Education Center, CEC, of the Bombay Natural History Society, where I work, and we are organizing these seminars, these webinars for all of you. So we have a butterfly garden here, and we have photographed 120 species of butterflies in this butterfly garden alone. So you can imagine the diversity of butterflies we get here. So what is an ideal open butterfly garden? It's like a miniature representation of the forest in the adjoining area, and has various plants and flowers grown there. And the environment is made as conducive as possible for butterflies in the area. That means what do we try? We try to attract maximum diversity of butterflies in the garden. We try to increase both diversity and abundance. That means number of butterflies and number of species. That should be our target. Both has to go. Then it becomes more attractive and really you can say a sample of the biodiversity of the area. And provide best conditions for butterflies to breed, to feed, to roost, so they don't go away from your butterfly garden, because all the requirements are fulfilled. And what do you need to create a butterfly garden? The knowledge about plants and gardening, knowledge about local butterfly diversity and their requirements. Otherwise, you will be bringing host plants or species which are not found in the area, and that will just waste your time and money and energy. Then a suitable piece of land at the right location. Right location means if your plot or land is near to the forest, there is a chance that you get more diversity and easy to attract more butterflies. Then you need manpower, you need working knowledge of the landscaping, because when you are creating a butterfly garden, landscaping is very important. Of course, you need finances to run the garden, and if you want to make it a public place, you need some knowledge of advertising and marketing, so that you can earn money out of it and really run it on a profitable basis. So what are the key points to fulfilling the needs of the butterflies? Providing larval host plants for laying eggs. So the butterflies lay eggs in your garden, and the butterflies in your garden. So they are born in the area. Then providing nectar plants for feeding. That means as soon as the butterflies emerge from the pupa, they get food. That's nectar, on which most butterflies feed. Then providing rotten fruits for non-nectar loving butterflies. So there are many butterflies which don't feed on nectar. So if you are providing rotten fruits, non-nectar loving butterflies also will be staying around the place. Then providing plants which have alkaloids. So these plants provide alkaloids, particularly the pyrrolizidine alkaloids, which are required by the male butterflies of many species to synthesize sex pheromones and also for making them unpalatable to their predators. And also provide mud puddling site for the supply of minerals. Many butterflies need wet patches for mud puddling, so that also can be provided. So understanding butterflies, the life cycle, we just go through the basics. So the life cycle of butterflies completes in 4 stages, that is eggs, caterpillar, the pupa or chrysalis, and adult butterfly. So this is the life cycle explained in a simple picture: the egg, the larva or caterpillar, pupa or chrysalis, and the adult butterfly. So it completes in 4 stages. So just look at one example. So this is the mating of common castor butterflies, and look at this common one, which is laying eggs. And then this is the egg of common pumfly, this is the egg of common baron, and this is a batch of eggs of small salmonella. There are some butterflies which lay eggs in batches. There are others which lay eggs as singles. So there are different types of egg laying habits. And then there are caterpillars. So this small salmonella, this is a batch of caterpillars emerged out. Then the single caterpillars of common rose and common leopard. So the red color says that it is unpalatable. Then the pupa or chrysalis, this is the common baron, chrysalis, red pierrot, common rose, and the common Indian crow. See the shining color of the common crow, chrysalis or pupa. And after that, the butterflies emerge. So this is the long-banded bush brown emerging or eclosing from pupa. And when they emerge, they are adults. So they can feed, they can start mating, and immediately even they can lay eggs on the same day. Then you need to understand what are the larval host plants. Larval host plants means is a selection of menu of the butterflies on which they lay eggs. So butterflies always have their own selection. It's not that they just go and lay eggs on any plant they find. There are certain species of moths which lay eggs on any plant, even on a tree trunk, on stone or a wall. They can lay at lots of non-larval host plant places. But for butterflies, it's generally very selective. They are very selective in laying their eggs. So we just look at some of the plants on which butterflies lay eggs. So this is a list, and we'll just see one by one. For example, this curry leaves plant or Moruya kuni. Everybody is familiar with this plant, and many grow this plant in their society or even in window sill. It's there. So there are three species of butterflies which lay eggs on curry leaves, especially the common mormon. This is the commonest and lays maximum eggs on these. So before you put the curry leaves in your curry, please ensure that there are no caterpillars. Otherwise, your curry becomes a non-vegetarian dish. Okay, so there are three species which are dependent on curry leaves plant. And are very easy to grow, very easily available in nurseries. You can just buy it and plant it wherever you want, and you get these three species of butterflies laying eggs in your campus or even in terrace or uh, wherever you are planning your garden. Then we have Aristolochia species. This is also known as duckweed. Aristolochia, there are few species in India, and this is a garden variety. And these attract three species of butterflies for laying eggs: the common rose, the crimson rose, and the most beautiful, the largest one in India, so the butterfly. So these three species lay eggs in on Aristolochia species. So it's very important, but just ensure that the butterfly is there, is found in your area, then only it will lay eggs on that. For example, if southern birdwing is not found in your area, you won't get its eggs or caterpillars. So the widely distributed are common rose and crimson rose. They will be laying eggs in most parts of India. These two butterflies can be seen laying eggs on Aristolochia. Then we have our lemon or lime or orange varieties, also we call citrus species. So the citrus species are also very important for at least 4 species of butterflies. They lay eggs on it. Lime blue, this tiny butterfly, a common mormon, blue mormon, the lime butterfly. The name itself suggests it lays eggs on the lime. So the 4 species of butterflies are dependent on lime, and this is a very common plant, very easy to grow anywhere in India. At least some variety of orange or some variety of lime or lemon will be available in your area. It's very easy to grow. Just you can put it in a pot also. Then we have false ashoka or the Palilia longifolia. This is a avenue tree and planted by government. I think in most of the big cities you can see this tree, and it's easily available in nurseries, easier to grow, adapts to various environments, so very easy to grow. And at least 4 species of butterflies lay eggs on this, like these beautiful spot swordtail, common blue bottle, common jay, and tail jay. The three species are very common even in cities and villages, human habitations. Spot swordtail is there in forests. So these 4 species, if you want to attract, just have these ashoka trees around, and you get those butterflies laying eggs, and you can see their caterpillars. Then we have Calotropis. Calotropis leaves are offered to Lord Hanuman. So you might be knowing this plant. This is a milkweed, and those butterflies which feed on these are unpalatable. You can say poisonous also to the predators. So the plain tiger, the tiger, and blue tiger, these lay eggs on various species of Calotropis. So Calotropis also is very easy to grow, and it's found in drier areas. It's naturally occurring plant in India, and it's not very aggressive, so it's good. Then we have a bale tree or eagle marvelous. This one is offered to Lord Shiva. You can see a caterpillar here, camouflaged, and this is also very important for at least I think 4 species of butterflies. I have shown 3, and this blue mormon, the state butterfly of Maharashtra, lays eggs on these. The lime butterfly, the common mormon, they all lay eggs on these, and their caterpillars are green in color. One more species, red helen, also. I think it also lays eggs on these. Bale is very important, and also it's offered to Lord Shiva. So that way also it is important. So you can always have a tree of this bale in your society and attract butterflies also. Then we have the passion flower. Everybody loves passion flowers because the flowers are so beautiful. And passion flower it's a creeper, and there are garden varieties available, and it's very easy to grow. This one is a wild variety, the Passiflora foetida, and the tawny castor lays eggs on this. So, but there are some varieties on which this tawny castor won't lay eggs. So, by experience, you can find out which are the varieties, especially the ones with red colors. I have not seen tawny castor laying eggs. The one which has got white and blue to purple shades, I have seen them laying eggs on those. Then there is one known as Kalancho or Bryophyllum. This Bryophyllum, in Marathi it's known as Panfuti because it propagates vegetatively. This is very important and very easy to grow plant. It grows, you just take one leaf and from the leaf another plant grows. So there is a beautiful butterfly which lays eggs on these, that's known as red Pierrot. So and the caterpillar hides inside the leaf. So because the leaf is thick and succulent, it just burrows inside and hides. So this is the pupa and this is the adult butterfly of red Pierrot. So you can buy this Kalancho in any nursery. Then we have Ixora species. Ixora, this is the wild one. This is also wild one, but also available as a garden variety. So you can get the Ixora species in any nursery, and it's very important because the monkey puzzle, very beautiful tiny butterfly belonging to Lycaenidae family, lays eggs on Ixora species. So it's very easy to grow and to attract monkey puzzle. Then we have one more naturally occurring plant, that is castor oil plant in our area. So yeah, castor oil is derived from the seeds of this plant, and it's very easy to grow from seeds, and it is wild also. So there is no need of spraying anything, because all the leaves will be eaten only by our butterfly caterpillars. Two species of butterflies feed on the leaves of this castor oil plant, that is common castor and angled castor. So very easy to grow and very easy to get this plant. Then we have this gunj or Abrus picatorius. I think it is also known as cat's eye also. So these seeds are used to make beads by some tribal ladies. And this is the flowers, these are the seeds. Also these are very easy to grow from the seeds because one plant will have so many seeds and beautifully colored red seeds. And it's the host plant of common cerulean as well as Indian sunbeam, these two beautiful butterflies. Their caterpillars are very tiny, so very difficult to search. And this can be grown in any butterfly garden. Then we have Karanch or Pongamia pinnata. This is also medium-sized tree. This was also planted by government agencies in many metro cities because it remains so green, lush green when it's summer. So there are two species of butterflies which lay eggs on this. Sorry, there is a common banded owl. The skippers also lay eggs on this common banded owl, and I think there is one more owl which lays eggs on these. So Karanj is also very easy to grow and available in all nurseries. Then we have this tropical milkweed. In Maharashtra we call it Haldi Kumku, the Asclepias jurassica. Very easy to grow from seeds. The seeds are like this, and the flowers are also very beautiful. So this you can even keep in your windowsill or terrace butterfly garden, and it attracts the common Indian crow. The caterpillar is very colorful, pupa is more colorful, and it is the butterfly which comes out finally. So these are only few larval rose plants which you can grow. Besides the larval rose plants, to attract butterflies for laying eggs, which is an important part of their life cycle, you can also have nectar sources in your butterfly garden, and you can create plots of varied flowering plants to attract butterflies from nearby areas. So plants which has compound flowers, that is made up of tiny florets, tiny flowers, that is known as a compound flower. So butterflies spend more time on such flowers compared to the single flowers and diversity of flowers. So what are the keys in selecting nectar sources? So you select flowers of various colors and various hues. You ensure that there are various colors. Not the butterfly garden should not be only one color or monotonous. Flowers with varying length of corolla. That means small corolla, long corolla, you can always have. Then flowering seasons, you should have plants which has got different flowering timings. Ensure that there are flowers in all seasons. Then ensure that there are compound flowers as well as single flowers. And also that naturally occurring wildflowers should be there. So ensure that you don't clean the land before making butterfly garden. Leave some area just wild and let the wild plants, so-called weeds, develop or grow in the area. That will also attract lots of butterflies, for which you cannot really provide nectar sources. The nature will take care of those butterflies. So just look at the nectar sources. So, like these are the nectar sources. I'm just giving some examples. So create plots of variety of flowers to attract butterflies from nearby areas. So you can create plots like this, like yellow. If you want to create a patch, yellow patch, so you can use this yellow lantana. If you want to create this pink, yellow, red, yellow combination patch, you can use this. You can have a mix of these two, but you need to be careful. I'm not promoting this. Just telling you these attracts lots of butterflies. If your area doesn't have lantana, please don't introduce lantana to that area, because these are exotic species and these are invasive species. But if your area already has a lot of lantana nearby, then there is no problem in growing few more trees, few more plants in the butterfly garden, because it's already there all around. But don't introduce to areas where there is no lantana. Okay, that's my request. Then there is one plant which has become very favorite of the butterfly gardeners all over the world. That is the Jamaican spike, the Stachyterbata species. This comes in purple and red colors, and I especially love the purple color because this attracts lots of butterflies. At least I have seen 30-40 species of butterflies visiting these flowers. These are tiny flowers and have a tubular corolla, and the corolla is not very long. So most of the butterflies can enjoy the nectar from these flowers. And one good thing is, though it is an exotic species, it does not spread of its own. So you can always control where to grow it, how much to grow it. Okay. This is one more species, the Singapore daisy, or we call it Sonki Vedelia trilobata. The flowers are beautiful and yellow. As you know, yellow color is the most favorite color of insects, including butterflies and moths and honeybees and lots of other insects and many wasps. So it's always good to have plants like Vedelia, because this attracts lots of butterflies. One, there's a compound flower. Two, then it has got flowers throughout the year, so you don't have to worry about lots of species. Because your butterfly garden needs to have flowers throughout the year. So this is a plant which has got flowers throughout the year and very easy to manage. You don't have to really take care of it. Well, just keep watering and it grows. But there is a problem also. It is very aggressive and it spreads. So in your butterfly garden, you have to ensure that it doesn't spread to other areas, because it may kill. If you have a plot kept for the wild varieties of grasses or weeds to come up, this will just take over that plot and completely kill the wild varieties, because this is very aggressive. So that you have to take care of. That's my personal experience. Then we have silver coxcomb. This is one. These are also wild plants and very easy to grow from the seeds. The seeds are very tiny black color seeds, and you just have to throw the seeds, and the plants come out when the season is there. This is a seasonal plant, especially monsoon. And when it comes out, it's like a plot, and it attracts lots of butterflies which has got short proboscis, like the milkweeds, the tigers, the pansies, the eggflies. They just come in flux in these silver coxcomb flowers to enjoy the nectar. So it's easy to grow, but it's very seasonal. As soon as the monsoon and post-monsoon season is gone, you can't find where the plants were. They just disappear. And needs a lot of sunlight and grows in drier areas. I don't think this will grow in areas where there is heavy rains, very heavy rains. Then we have pentas. This is a garden variety. There are lots of garden varieties with different colors. And I especially love the pink and red varieties because those attract lots of butterflies and easy to grow even in pots. If you want to develop a terrace garden, butterfly garden, you can easily procure these plants from nurseries and grow. Then we have verbena. This also comes in various colors and huge. You can create plots of verbena like this, and the flowers are like not very long, but the corolla is tubular. Just the butterflies love, like as they love butterflies love those, and has a lot of nectar. So lots of butterflies keep flocking to those flowers, and the flowers come in bunches. As I said, compound flowers. So butterflies love verbena. So it's always good to create plots of these in according to their colors, and this is available in all sorts of nurseries. Then there is one more wild plant, that is the tridex, the coat buttons. This attracts lots of butterflies, yellows, blues, and this is also a compound flower. Flowers are very tiny. So all the smaller butterflies, these keepers will be plucking these flowers. But this needs dry habitat, stony habitat, and if there is heavy rains, this is because this is a succulent plant. It will just die. Can't survive heavy rains, or it just comes out when the rains are gone. Then the wild zinnia, of course, this is also a wild plant from the drier areas. So you cannot grow in areas where there is heavy rains. It's also very seasonal, but wherever it grows in plots and attracts lots of butterflies because these are compound flowers. You can see one lime butterfly enjoying the nectar here. Then we have cosmos. Cosmos also is a seasonal plant, very easy to grow. You just have to bring the seeds, throw the seeds in your butterfly garden in a particular plot. They come out in a season and attract butterflies, and then they die off for the next season. Then you have one wild species known as Leah. This Leah is a wild species, and as well, the flowers are very tiny. So butterflies, which have got short proboscis, and other butterflies also, a lot of other butterflies, even with long proboscis, because the flower is as good as open. So they come to this Leah species. So the flats, tricolored white flat, Malabar spotted flat, you can see those on this, and the golden angle, they will be visiting this. Then we have the Ixora species. This also comes in various colors and is available in gardens. This is not only a good nectar plant for butterflies with long proboscis, it is also a larvalose plant of monkey puzzle. Then we have the pagoda flower, that is sclerodendron. I don't think this will grow in areas where it is not naturally found. But in areas where it is naturally found, you can increase you can have more plantation of these, and these get flowers in like huge bunches. You look at the inflorescence, so many flowers at one place. So the big butterflies like the southern birdwing and the jejebels, and they are all flocking these pagoda flowers. Wherever you have these pagoda flowers, or in Western Ghats, there is another species of clerodendron that also you can try, which has got purple flowers. That also attracts lots of butterflies like the red herons and the birdwings. So you can plant those according to the area where these are found. If you are in Himalayas, just find out which are the species, which related species of these, and you can grow those in your area. Then if we have this China rose or hibiscus, we call jaswondi. These are single flowers. Okay, these are not bunches or not composite flowers or compound flowers. So these are in singles, but these also attract a lot of butterflies. And this periwinkle, rose periwinkle, these also attract a lot of butterflies. But these are compound. These are not compound flowers. So the butterflies don't spend as much time as they spend on the compound flowers. They just visit, take nectar, and go to another flower. Okay, that was about the nectar-loving butterflies. There are many species of butterflies which do not love nectar and they never visit flowers. Many of them never visit. What they love is although things like animal shit or excreta, urine, or dead animals like the crabs and fish. So these are their favorites. And of course, rotten fruits. More the smell, more the better. That's their choice. So what you can do is you can just keep some rotten fruits in a small basket. This is a pen stand, and this is a blue oak leaf butterfly, closed wings, Xanomelos nawab, you can see. And this is pineapple. Okay, so pineapple attracts lots of butterflies. Xanomelos nawab, gaudy barrel. So what are the fruit choices? So my observation is butterflies love pineapple. It's number one, easy to get. The bananas. Right, more the smelling, more that's the better. Then they love custard apple. Also, there are two more fruits, guava and papaya. They also love these. But these three are the best to attract non-nectar loving butterflies to your butterfly garden. And they are like addicts. Once they are indulged in sipping the sap or from these rotten fruits, they won't fly away. You can just go near and take close-up, clicks, photographs. So even in Singapore Butterfly Garden, I found that they were using these pineapples. So what they were doing, they were just buying the pineapple and cutting it into slices. See the clipper butterfly here, and this is our bananas. common barren of bananas, rotten bananas. Then again pineapple, rotten bananas here. You can see the blue oak leaf, close wing and open wing. Such a beautiful butterfly, and I can go near to it a few inches and take this picture. So these rotten fruits also attract lots of butterflies. The tree browns, the bush browns, the egg flies, great egg fly, and some of the pansies also. You can see the pineapple here. So rotten fruits or overripe fruits is a choice. Then there are butterflies, males of some butterflies, particularly the Danites or the family Danite, which visit or the damaged or rotten parts of specific plants to suck pyrrolizidine alkaloids. These alkaloids are used for by these butterflies to produce sex pheromones or mate-attracting chemicals. These are the precursors and make them unpalatable to predators, not humans, okay? Parasitoids or pathogens. So these are the predators which kill these butterflies. So because of these chemicals, the alkaloids, these butterflies become unpalatable to these enemies. And which are the plants which provide these chemicals? So the ratterpod and the turnsole, Protellaria and Heliotropium, and there is one more, Eupatorium. So we have two species. This is the ratterpod. Ratterpod attracts lots of milkweed butterflies like blue tiger, glassy tiger, dark blue tiger, the crows like common Indian crow, brown king crow, double-branded crow. All these butterflies, they just flock. You can see how many butterflies are there on one plant. See this ratterpod attracting blue tigers and glassy tigers and striped tigers. Then this is Heliotropium or Hastishundi, turnsole, Indian turnsole. So you see here the damaged flowers or the rotten flowers are attracting butterflies. So this is a plain tiger male. This is male, you can see the pouch here. So that's a male. This is the plant. So it causes some itching if you try to touch the leaves or flowers of this plant. Okay. Then butterflies also need a site where they can do one more thing, that's mud puddling. Mud puddling is a process in which they suck water from the wet patch, keep the chemicals which they need, and after that they release the excess water from the body. So they seek out nutrients from the wet soil, even from rotting plants, and these they obtain salts and amino acids, which are very important for them, and they play a very important role in physiology, their behavior. They also sometimes suck human sweat because they get these chemicals from the human sweat. And there are lots of butterflies belonging to family Papilinidae and Pyralidae, which indulge in mud puddling. Also, the blues also do a lot of mud puddling. So males seem to benefit from this because they take sodium through mud puddling and increase in reproductive success. Do you know why they need these chemicals? During the courtship and during the mating, what happens is the male gives these chemicals as a gift to the female, like a gift that is known as a nuptial gift, and you can even say it's a dowry given by the male to the female. And this nutrition or these chemicals help the female in increasing the survival rate of the eggs. That's the benefit. And the excess water is just immediately released from the anus by the butterflies. Okay, I'm not a landscaping expert, but this is just a simple drawing. A sample butterfly garden can have a large variety of larvaceous plants, nectar plants, and other plants fulfilling all the needs of butterflies in the area. So the plants can be grouped into plots according to the colors. So that will get an aesthetic look. You can have a lot of other things like you can have arches or creepers and just beautification. You can have some ponds. A lot of things can be done, of course, as a part of landscaping. And I'll just not speak much about landscaping. But it is important. If your butterfly garden is near to the city fringe or near a forested area, it will be very nice. You will get more diversity of butterflies. And when you are planting the small plants, the smaller trees, then bigger trees, herbs, shrubs. You just have to ensure that there is a mixture of shade and sunshine. Just ensure that trees are not planted in such a way that the entire garden becomes shaded. That will discourage butterflies from staying into the butterfly garden. Also, you need to plant narrow footpaths to prevent trampling of the plants by visitors. Narrow footpaths should make it possible for the visitors to reach maximum parts of the butterfly garden. Priyanka, can you clear this?
Yes, sir, one second.
Then, so that the visitors can have access to most parts, and ensure that the sunshine reaches most parts of the butterfly garden, because butterflies are cold-blooded animals. They need to bask every day in sunshine. My request, please don't do this. Then large trees should not create shadow in entire butterfly garden. And of course, you need to have irrigation facility or watering facility for the plants. It's best to have sprinklers, so you don't need much human power every day for watering the plants. Here are some do's and don'ts of the butterfly gardening. First thing is, you know the diversity of butterflies in your area and plant things according to that diversity. Don't plant for butterflies which are not found in your area. Don't bring those plants which are not or the butterfly species which are not found in your area. And get maximum out of those plants. Plant nectar plants, provide rotten fruits, keep a damp patch for mud puddling, keep some shady places. Then avoid. Okay, let us look at the don'ts. So avoid use of insecticides, pesticides, and weedicides, or any such chemicals. They just kill the caterpillars or the host plants. And what are the caterpillars? They are nothing but our butterflies. So if you use insecticides, pesticides, you are killing the butterflies indirectly or directly, I will say. What is the future scope of butterfly gardening? There is huge potential for butterfly tourism, butterfly gardening, huge employment opportunity. Open butterfly gardens can be created in every state as no permissions are required. More enclosed butterfly gardens can be created at airports, urban cities, like in existing zoos for recreation by government agencies. Of course, this has already been started. Rearing of pupae and supplying them to butterfly gardens inside India and also for export. Of course, you need to first understand the present law, which does not permit sale or export of any wild animals in India without permissions. So this is just a remote possibility, I am saying. I'm not saying we should start this immediately. Scope for community involvement in butterfly conservation, it's being done in many countries. The laws are very stringent here, so we need to understand the laws first. If the laws are made flexible, might be there. It can increase the employment opportunities. Here is a list of some butterfly gardens in India. This is not a exhaustive list because the presentation is about how to develop butterfly gardens and how to list some butterfly gardens in India. So there are lots of butterfly gardens already existing, like the Butterfly Conservatory of Goa, Ponda, Samvila Set is butterfly garden. The one in Ramoji Film City. This is the Olegharwadi Butterfly Garden, and Mr. Olegher is showing a newly emerged butterfly to all the participants and releasing that. So this is our butterfly garden at Conservation Education Center, CEC, Mumbai, and a lot of people come. We organize a lot of activities like the breakfast with butterflies and butterfly festival we started last year, and people, nature lovers, really give good response to these activities, and they just flock to our center to see the good butterflies. That's the importance of butterflies. They attract all of us. Then we have one in butterfly garden in Thattekadu, Kerala, and a lot of butterfly gardens are coming up. Okay, so this is just a few more butterfly gardens. There is one in Madhya Pradesh. I mentioned one in Bangalore, one in Gujarat. So lots of them are coming up. So if you are interested, keenly interested, and want to pursue, there are few books on butterfly gardening. So I love this one, the Exercise Society, and this one. These two butterfly books I love, especially I love. They're very nice books, and because of Amazon and this Nowadays, you can order any book from any corner of the world. So you can do this. You can, of course, there is a choice of reading books, and another choice is to learn from experts like experts in BNHS or other experts. These are some butterfly gardens in India. Okay. So you can see this one is the Goa. This one is Goa, the butterfly garden in Goa. These two. I visited the butterfly garden at Changi Airport in Singapore. Yeah, we conduct a course known as basic course in butterfly studies, and we had one participant. We are proud of her. She is Dr. Gita Saman. She took inspiration and she took it seriously, and she developed a beautiful butterfly garden on her terrace that newspaper Asian Age uh, printed a story about her terrace butterfly garden. I think she got 60 species of butterflies, and this building is near Goregaon station. So it's not like that she stays near to the forest. It's really in a urban habitat. Still, she gets so many butterflies in her terrace butterfly garden. So you can also develop a terrace butterfly garden, taking inspiration and cue from Dr. Gita Samant ma'am. So this is about the basic course in butterfly studies which we conduct at CEC, and I'm leading this course. So we have 2 field visits and 2 field camps and 2 indoor sessions. 2 field visits are around Mumbai, 2 field camps. Last year we did in, one was in Sammilan Shetty's Butterfly Garden in Belvai, and one was at Amboli in northwestern Maharashtra, southwestern Maharashtra, just above Goa. And this is a 6 months course and beautiful course if you are really interested in learning more about butterflies and get similar minded people along with you. So these are some references I generally refer to when I want to talk, when I want to teach, when I, whatever I want to do about butterflies. These are the things I always refer to. So most of the things are available online except the books. Books you can buy. Other all the research papers are available online. You can just download. And there is a book which you can always refer, and that's the book known as Butterfly Western Guards. It's a free book written by me. You can download it on ResearchGate website. Just do a Google search and you will find this book. Why I'm telling you about this book is this book has got a list of larval rose plants of 332 species found in Western Ghats or South India. So the list of larval rose plants for each species is given. Of course, there are some good papers about the larval rose plants, especially the. I'll go back one slide. This paper, Nitin and others. This paper is very good about the list of larval rose plants. So this is about butterfly gardening, and okay.